So, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Brampton Observatory channel. Just thought I'd do a quick live stream tonight. Uh, Unfortunately, the seeing conditions are not very good, so my regular imaging session of the object that you see on the screen right now is kind of postponed. Right now, we're coming up on a 3-minute image of the Elephant Trunk Nebula, which is part of a larger cloud complex. Uh, the complex itself, by the reddish color, you can tell it's mostly made of hydrogen gas. So you may be asking yourself, so why did they call it the Elephant Trunk Nebula? Well, if you look here, in this area here, it looks a little bit like an elephant trunk. Sometimes you gotta wonder who comes up with the names for these things. However, there's a lot of dark areas in this nebula, and it's actually a very nice looking image when it's completed. Obviously, here we're looking at one 3-minute image. So quality wise, it's not going to be spectacular. I can actually show you what this would look like as a final image. So if you're looking at this guy, this is kind of what a final image of it would look like after it's been rotated and processed and all that kind of thing. So that's what I'm hoping to get at the end of it when I am able to image the elephant trunk again. And hopefully that'll be tomorrow night. Tonight, like I say, the seeing is pretty terrible, so I thought I'd go on and do a little bit of a live thing here. I do try to get on as often as I can for the live stream, but that can be challenging. The weather has not been great as of late. I did the unthinkable the other day. I had a bunch of different targets that I had done and used a different gain setting and processed this. I had actually completed about 7 hours of this particular nebula, and ended up throwing away all the data. I was overzealous and was doing the imaging on nights where the seeing or the transparency was not particularly good, or I started a little bit earlier in the evening because I had to be to work the next day early in the morning. So I wanted to get as much in as I could, and it wasn't really dark enough to be doing that. This whole, if you're doing this as a hobby, patience is of the essence. It really is. You need to, especially if you get into the imaging side of it, you need to be really patient and not rush through things. Focus on one target, as I did, but again, rookie mistake, and I shouldn't be making those mistakes. I rushed through it. The quality and the gain setting wasn't proper, and it was a very faded image, much like the final image looked much like what you see now. It was a little better, but not much. So I definitely just tossed away all the data, and that was unfortunate. However, sometimes we live and learn, and that's basically what happened with this particular target. This target is relatively close to us, actually, in galactic terms. It's only 2,400 light years away, so that means the light that we're seeing right now on your screen is coming to us, started traveling toward us about 2,400 light years ago, or 2,400 years ago, I should say. So that's the elephant trunk. Again, interesting target, and I suggest anybody who gets into astro imaging take a look at it. I've got a Ellen Hans filter on the camera right now, which helps to bring out that hydrogen alpha gas that you see, that reddish color. And I could put it L Extreme on there. There's a bit of a moon out tonight, and that's having a small effect on the image, but not a whole lot really. The L Enhance filter does let in a little bit of the moonlight, where the L Extreme filter, which is another level up, another narrowband filter, cuts out even more of the light that you don't want to come in, like moonlight and light pollution, that sort of thing. So the L Extreme may actually be a little more suited to this particular target on a night like this. However, just for the sake of showing you some images here online, this filter is good enough. And I do like the L Enhance because it does have a bit more range than the L Extreme, both made by Optilong. Very good filters. I really like them. They also have an L Pro filter, which is really designed just to cut out light pollution. It's a broadband filter. It does cut out certain components of light pollution from street lights and things like that and the moon, but a lot of the light pollution now, a lot of the lighting in neighborhoods is LED lighting, and LED lighting, it doesn't deal with all that well, especially on one corner of sort of looking towards the westish area of my place. There's a big street light there, usually where the Eagle Nebula is, and some of the more interesting things that I'd love to image, but not well. You're not going to get a very good image because of that street light blocking. I did last time when we did a live stream actually do an image of Eagle, and we'll try one tonight before it gets too low in the horizon here, or below my horizon anyway. And we'll have a look at that. So let's go see if we can get any of the Eagle Nebula. There may be some clouds coming in later. Right now it's, again, sky conditions are less than good. Let's have a look. M16 is the Eagle Nebula. If I can see my keyboard here. There we go. And we'll just turn around to that while it slews into position. Again, this was an unannounced stream, so I know there's nobody here at the moment, but hopefully you'll have a look at it a little later on. And I do ask you to subscribe to the channel, hit like, would be nice if you like us, and definitely turn on notifications so that you know when we do go live and you're able to look in on the night sky with us. So the mount is slewing to its location, and we'll see what we got here in just a second. It may be too low. We'll know. Well, it's picked up a lot of stars, so it says the target's centered, and it's going to load the image. Momentarily, and I lost my guiding here, which is no surprise because this is so low. it is starting up again on a new target. So, okay. So, we'll just hit the histogram. We'll let it have a look. Oh, okay. Well, we have a satellite trail, which is another thing that was happening to me. Satellites were going crazy overhead during the nights that I was imaging the elephant trunk, which is just annoying. Every third or fourth image I was deleting because you'd have one of these lines going through it. These are a satellite or an airplane would pass over. It definitely can get annoying when that happens, but again, astronomy is a hobby or a profession, depending on whether you do this for a living or not, of patience. And sometimes it's irritating that you're not getting what you want and you get frustrated, and sometimes people even give up the hobby because of that. You can actually see a second satellite was passing down here. But don't give up, just keep going and keep understanding that you're going to have good nights where everything will go well, and then there are those nights where nothing seems to work. You're not getting the images you want, or you have equipment malfunctions. Happens all the time. And again, you just get through it and keep trucking, as they say, and enjoy the night sky. How often, if you live in the city in particular, can you do something like this, and take a picture of something that the Hubble telescope took an image of? Of course, these are M16 is also known as the Eagle Nebula, or the more famous picture that was taken by Hubble, the Pillars of Creation, which we will see when I zoom in here. Hopefully, I am getting a lot of light leak here from that street light that's just above or just below the image that I'm taking here. Oh, look, there's even another satellite. So we are just a bevy of them here tonight. Not something you want to see in your image. Our guiding is back on again. And the seeing conditions, you're always chasing seeing when you're guiding. And guiding is less than great when you are, or when you have not the best of conditions. So tomorrow is September 1st, and we're moving towards some of the fall and winter targets, and we'll definitely be taking a look at those. Some of them are getting higher in the sky now and in a position where I can image them. So definitely we will do that, and do that on live stream. Let's see what we got here. Again, this is a nebula that's comprised mostly of hydrogen alpha gas, but this is also a region in space that is creating stars. Our own star probably, well, we know, came from probably a nebula not too dissimilar to this. Wow, okay, well, that's kind of oversaturated. Let's try to tone that down a wee bit. I would love to image this again on a better night. Let's play around with the histogram, see what we can get here. A little better. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this. You can see there's a lot of nebulosity around this as well. It's a fairly big complex, even though people are really kind of focused on what you see here. So if you're looking now, let's see if I can make that even a little better. I think I've hit the edge here. A little more this way. A little more. Yeah, that's too far. Okay, well, unfortunately with that street light there, this is probably as good as we're going to get. But you can see in here part of that Hubble image. Again, it's inverted because we're using the type of telescope that I would have to flip the image in the final processed image to bring it right side up. But you can see all the stars in here, and inside these dark clouds more stars are being created, and eventually this nebula will disappear when all this hydrogen gas is used up from making stars. The nebula will be gone. So we're very fortunate in our time that we're able to really look at this. Yeah, not much I can do with that, with the street light there, and it's actually quite low. But that gives you an idea. Again, something in the night sky. Obviously, darker skies than Bortle 8 would be ideal, and not having a street light smack in the middle of where you want to image would also be ideal. However, this is the kind of target you can go after with your camera. You don't need to have a fancy astronomy camera to do this kind of thing. You can do it if you have a DSLR. You're not going to get the quality image that I'm getting, or I would get if once it's processed, but you can get some pretty amazing images just with a DSLR. There are people out there who strictly image DSLR and process in Photoshop or PixInsight and get some amazing pictures. It would be more difficult to get a really good picture, again, in a light polluted city. The DSLR cameras are not cooled cameras, because right now my camera is operating at minus 15 degrees Celsius. That eliminates a lot of the noise that you see in images that you get with the DSLR. But if you're there is a system you can buy that cools the DSLR down a little bit, but again, my recommendation would be to get a dedicated astro imaging camera. There's a lot of them out there, and one of these days I'll do a video on some of my recommendations for getting started. But again, even with an iPhone, you can get an image not too bad from even a target like this. That there are telescopes there's adapters that you can put on these telescopes and take images with them. The cameras on phones today are actually not bad at all. So that's the Eagle. Pretty good image. You can see again, big complex of hydrogen gas indicated by the red color. The Hubble picture you've seen is a false color image. It's been colored to make it look prettier. When I say false color, if you were to look at this in space, it would look more like this than the Hubble image in terms of coloring. But they do that to make it a more interesting image, and some of the colors are representative of some of the other gases in there, like hydrogen beta, O3, oxygen 3, and some of the other gases. And it looks good, and I've actually started learning to process in the Hubble palette, which is the Hubble color palette that's used. I did one image and it turned out kind of okay. I did it more or less just for fun to see how I would do the processing and based on some other people's way of doing it, and it turned out okay. It was an image of the Heart Nebula, which hopefully will be higher in the sky soon that we can image and show you that one, the Heart and Soul Nebula, especially with this 400 millimeter Rasa telescope. You can get a bigger area than my 14-inch Edge HD with the Hyperstar, which, good news, is coming back hopefully in the next few weeks. We'll put that back in the observatory, and maybe we'll be able to have two different rigs running at the same time. That's my hope. I did kind of wreck, I think I told you in one of my videos, my other ASI Air, so I'm going to have to buy a new one of those to put on the 14-inch when it comes back from California. And yeah, so that's Eagle. Let's have a look at something else. Let's see what else we got here. M17 is another diffuse nebula. It's even lower, so I'm not even going to try it. It's really unfortunate. There's like a lot of interesting things to image in this part. Like this is a view of the Milky Way, kind of edge on, and further down as we get toward the core, there's some really great stuff, but my neighbor's house is in the way and they're not going to move that, sadly. Also want to do some planetary stuff in the not too future. You can see Saturn is here, but again, my house is in the way at the moment of that. My house is not this low off the ground. It goes up. I just, in this particular image, panorama image that I did, I cut all that out so I could get a lower look at what's rising and where it is. I keep saying I'm going to do another image more up to date, because this one is not. This tree is no longer here. This tree is no longer here. This shed is no longer here. My neighbor's house is still here. But I did the same thing. I just cut the top off all around so I could sort of see what's what in that part of the sky. I think, yeah, I don't think we're able to get the Heart right now. My neighbor's tree here grew exponentially over the last few years and is, I think, somewhere directly in the way. This is the Heart and Soul Nebula, but they will swing around higher in the sky. We may be able to get Andromeda, which is up here. It's a little higher in the sky. Let's give it a whirl. If not, we'll move on to another target. That's M31. Let's have a quick look. Won't be able to stay online too late tonight because I do have to work in the morning. So let's swing over and see if we get anything out of M31. If not, what else do we have? We have M2. Let's look at, oops, my light went out and that one went out. They're on timers. I think M2 is probably a little low. It's probably on my roof. And, well, we can take a look at NGC 7000, which is the North American nebula with the 3-minute image. We'll try that, but let's see first if we can get any of Andromeda. I'm actually doubting it. I think that tree is in the way, unfortunately, at this time. Andromeda, of course, will move much higher in the sky as we move towards winter. And I'll be able to get better shot of it. Although it did detect 1150 stars, so that's positive, but it can't solve it, so I'm guessing the tree is in the way. So it's probably looking through. If it's 47 seconds in, then yeah, that's not happening. Okay, so let's take a look at NGC 7000. Which is also a really large nebula called the North American Nebula. And for those who are tuning in that have never seen it before, you'll see momentarily why it's called the North American Nebula. Definitely starting to feel the cooler nights. It's 77 degrees in the observatory control room right now. Outside it's considerably cooler. So we are definitely moving towards fall. Okay, well, it definitely did finish that. So it's going to do a very crappy preview image as it does. I, by the way, recommend anybody who gets into astrophotography to get some really good software. I do not recommend Sequence Generator Pro anymore because they went to a subscription type thing, and yeah, not good. I don't like subscriptions. If I buy software, I like to own the software. The ASI Air comes with the software you need that you're seeing right now. You can use software called BlueStacks because it's Android, and actually BlueStacks will allow you to use it on your PC or your laptop, which is what I'm doing. Or if you have an iPad or iPhone, although I recommend minimum an iPad mini to use it, which is great if you're out in a dark sky site and you don't want to drag a laptop along or don't have the proper power to do that. Then an iPad is great for that kind of thing. Alright, so let's do a 3-minute image. Hello. There we go. Excuse me. And see what we get here. Yeah, so ASI Air, there's another one out called the Eagle, which has software built into it where you can use something like Nina, which is another image acquiring software. It's a free software. SGP is good software. I've used it, but I really didn't like the fact that, like I said, they went to this subscription thing, and it can get expensive. Like I say, if you buy the software, you own the software, and that should be it. I mean, if there are major upgrades, yeah, okay, I don't mind paying a little bit for that. But for renewing every year, no thanks. And I think SGP lost a lot of customers because of that. A lot of people have gone to Nina, which is free and pretty amazing software. I haven't really used it because I do everything wirelessly. Like all of this is being transmitted over Wi-Fi. And I prefer to go that way rather than run cables into the control room, into the computer I have here. But again, that's up to you. Not everybody has an observatory, so SGP, maybe you like it. I like this. I mean, it does plate solving, it does polar alignment, it does when you have the autofocuser attached to it that you can buy from ZWO as well. Uh, it's a complete package, and it's not necessarily a super advanced package, but it does the job and works really well for me. I have no complaints. The software is updated very regularly. They're putting new things on into the software all the time. You can do things like annotate, which I'll show you in a minute here once the image is up, and a whole lot of other functionality, as you can see along the top. You can do your camera settings, you can do your focuser settings, you can do the various mount settings, the EAF, which is the electronic focuser. You can control a filter wheel as well if you're using a non one-shot color camera and you're using multiple filters. You can do planning, you can do live stacking, which is pretty cool. I've done that before. It does take time, but it builds an image basically right in front of you. And a lot of people actually image that way. They'll live stack a bunch of images, save it as a master file, then they'll go back and live stack again the next imaging night and build their image that way, which is not a bad idea. I haven't tried it that way. I do like to monitor what's going on as much as I can when I'm out here. There are other people who actually have setups in observatories. If either they're in an observatory or even if they're not in an observatory, set up and let their rigs run all night, automated, and they'll shut down. So that's the possibility as well. I mean, you can get into this and spend kind of as much money as you like. So here's the North American, and of course we got a satellite going through it, so we're going to take another image of that. You can see the satellite trail here. So this is also a fairly large nebula complex, and you can see why they call it the North American. Of course, the image again is reversed, so you can see sort of how it looks like the continent of North America. Down here would be the Gulf of Mexico, and of course somewhere up here would be Alaska, coming down into Canada, the US, into California and Mexico. So again, a really interesting target. You can see it actually came out pretty well considering the seeing conditions tonight. And we'll hopefully get a slightly better image without the satellite trail. This is a star generating area as well. All this gas will collapse eventually into star material. You can see some even with this one short image, see some of the more dense gas areas where stars are likely being produced. And we've got about 90 seconds till the next image comes through. Hopefully at some point I'll be able to get people live on here and you can ask questions and I'll do my best to answer them or make comments or suggestions of what you'd like to see. But you do have to subscribe to the channel and like I say, get notifications turned on so you can actually know when we are live. Got about 53 seconds on this target. Hopefully we'll get minus the satellite so you can see how big a problem this can be when you're imaging. And frankly, Elon Musk's constellation satellites, which travel kind of in packs, are the worst of the worst. I have encountered those only a few times, luckily, during my imaging. But the times that I have, it's like a train going by. They just keep going and going and going, and you end up just putting everything on pause until it clears. Shoot an image just to see that they've gone, and then start your imaging session again. So we're down to just a few seconds, and it'll load the image. I did get a request actually from someone who watched the video last time I did a live stream to if I could do M27 again, which is the dumbbell nebula, and do a longer image session on that one, which I will do next. So there you go, no satellite trail. Beautiful image, target to image, lots of detail in there as well that you can bring out after you've done many images and stack them all together and do the processing and clean it up. I use a two-step process really. My primary imaging is in PixInsight, which is some amazing software. I'm still learning it. It is very deep, but I've had a lot of help along the way in helping me to figure some of that out. There's a lot of great YouTube videos out there. Sean Nielsen, who's a local amateur astronomer in Kitchener area, he is a master of PixInsight, and he does a great job of explaining different processes and how to do things in a way that will give you much better imaging, or processing I should say, to make your images look pretty, which is, if you're doing this as a hobby, obviously you would like to have your images look good, show your friends and family, and post it on your Facebook page or Instagram or wherever you happen, whatever social media you happen to be on. So my guiding here, obviously the seeing is probably getting a little bit crappier because I see I'm up to 1.02 in error. That's not good. I like to stay in the 0.50, 0.60 range. Although I must say my curves here in the guiding are relatively flat, so that's just caused by the atmospheric conditions that I'm not getting the best guiding. But again, for just one-shot views here, it's more than adequate. So that is the North American Nebula. Fantastic target, and I suggest everybody who gets into astro imaging take a look at imaging this target. It's great. You will really, to get any kind of decent picture of it, need to get an H-alpha filter. But those are relatively inexpensive. I mean, the Optolong filters, again, are what I use. There's other brands out there, Batter, Idis, and some of the others. You'll see lots of comparison videos. Optolong did have some problems with some of their filters, but I think they've corrected most of that. And they are coming out with a dedicated 2-inch filter, 3-nanometer filter, I believe. And it will make the image quality for something like this even better. Although it hasn't come out yet. And I'll probably buy that and give it a whirl when it does come out. So let's have a look at M27. This is the famous Dumbbell Nebula. Which is fairly high in the sky right now. It's going to be online for a little while longer. While it's doing there, let's see where, let's have a look at a globular cluster. 1, 3. Let's see where you are, M13. I'm using Starry Night Pro, which is my planetarium software. As I've mentioned before, there's some other great software out there as well. This one is a paid software. Stellarium is free. You can download that. And let's do... That's not what we want. There we go. Now, okay. Yeah, M13 is definitely going to be in our view. So there's M27. Let's do a 3-minute exposure on that guy. You can see a little bit of the nebulosity here. This is not quite the same as the other nebula that we've looked at. It's actually very different. This is a dying and sort of dead star that has expelled its shell, and that's what you're looking at. So when we zoom in after our image here, you'll see a little more what I mean, and hopefully we'll see the white dwarf in the center that was probably a sun-like star or a little bit bigger, and went through its life cycle and is now just a white dwarf, which is a small star. And we'll see some of that nebulosity of the shell that it's expelled and will continue to expel. And that will expand as well over time and become bigger and distort. So over time, the dumbbell will not necessarily look like the dumbbell anymore. It will change. I mean, we're looking at this as it was a very long time ago. M27 is, let's see, M27. Let's see how far M27 is away. So it's description doesn't, yeah. Basically says Dumbbell Nebula is the brightest planetary nebula in the night sky. It is viewable with a small telescope or binoculars, although it won't look like what I'm going to show you. It'll be more of a grayish, but you'll be able to definitely discern what it is. It's either in the hourglass shape or a dumbbell appearance. It starts to show some color in there, definitely in the outer shell. It is. They say that the central star is faint and hard to see. Well, yeah, it definitely is. If you're looking visually, you hopefully will be able to see it in my image. And the oxygen shell is moving outwards at 15 kilometers per second, while the faster nitrogen shell is expanding at a rate of 30 kilometers per second. And this just gives its position in the sky. Again, great software, other data. Its size is about 8 arc minutes. General information. It doesn't really give the distance. And I can't remember the distance offhand. But we can definitely look that up. So it's just loading the image now that we took. Hopefully no satellites. Okay, so definitely our histogram. Again, you can see the seeing is not great here, and that's why we're getting a lot of this hazing in the image. Let's look at the histogram and try to bring that down a wee bit. Yeah, when I have to go this far on it, definitely sky conditions are getting worse. Well, let's zoom in on it. And yeah, 3 minutes is probably, yeah, we've basically blown out the core here. So we're going to go back and reshoot this because we want to try to see that central star. One of the things you have to do when you're doing astrophotography is how much is too much. And 3 minute exposure on a bright target like this, you can see how much core got blown out here, overexposed. And another target, more of a winter target, is the Orion Nebula, and in the core of that, almost everybody blows out the core of Orion. Now there is a technique to, well, there's a few different techniques to fix that, where you will see the central stars in Orion. And that's a better way of doing it. That way you'll actually see what's called the trapezium, not in this, but in the center core of Orion, which, well, we've got, before it's in my neck of the woods, my sky, I have virtually no southeast exposure because of the position of my house. So I can't really do anything until Orion moves more into the western side of the sky, and that's typically February, well, January through March, a little bit in December, but typically I have to wait till late at night and just before it gets into that light I told you about. So let's see, we're almost down to having this image completed, and we'll see how big a difference cutting the exposure made. May have to even go lower. Again, it's a bright target, but you can see the different gases, the hydrogen, the nitrogen, all through here. And let's see, we're down to 1 second. Let it load up here. Sorry, this very slow loading tonight. I should have actually restarted the ASI Air software. Sometimes it does that, it's slow, and if you just do a restart on it, it speeds up. Could also be somebody in my house. Okay, let's do a reset on auto on that. Okay, so we're a little closer to seeing the central star, but even that exposure is probably too much. Let's give it one more go at 60 seconds. Again, this is something you learn when you're doing astrophotography. Again, how much exposure you need. For this particular object, probably I would end up doing 30-second exposures and multiple 30, maybe several hours worth of 30-second exposures to get the detail in the core. You can almost see the central star on this. Almost, but not quite. And the seeing conditions are also playing a part in not being able, because I have imaged this before and I've been able to see that central star. Well, we're coming up on 18 seconds. Let's see what we get when it loads up. It's getting even slower, which could also be someone in my house streaming YouTube, or I have a couple of people who live in my house, my nephew and my wife, and if they're both streaming movies or something, it definitely slows my connection down a little bit. Okay, so we've got 60 seconds. So that has definitely spread the histogram a little more. Okay, yeah, so I can just see the star here. It's very, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on your screen or not. After this is out, I think the high definition version comes out afterwards. You can just about see it right there. Yeah, you'd have to look really closely. Maybe I'll darken it up a bit. That's a little better. Let's go to a little more. Yeah, so now it's getting a little more pronounced as we play around with the histogram a bit. Probably overdid it there. No, actually. So there it is. There's the star that's died. It's a white dwarf. This is called a planetary nebula, and our own sun, this is what's going to happen to it at the end of its life. It's going to become a red giant, and eventually it is going to shed its layers out into space and become a white dwarf. And this is basically the fate of our sun and our solar system. So yeah, you can see it there. So yeah, as I said, I would probably just go back and shoot just a whole bunch of 60-second images, or even 30-second images of this particular nebula. It is very bright. I love the way the gas rim is out here. You can see the different gases forming, and again, once you do a bunch of images of this particular target, stack them together, you can get some really nice detail in here, especially in this area here and here. You can sort of see the hourglass or dumbbell shape depending on how you turn the image. So John, I hope you view the video and you're able to get that picture of the dumbbell that you wanted to see. I'll leave it on the screen for you for a minute because I know you said you wanted to do a video capture to show your students. Okay, so now we're going to go and have a look at a globular cluster. This is one of the more famous globular clusters, which is M13. I don't have it on my list. Okay, put it in there. 1, 3. Oops. Here we go. That's better. I've bought these little lights so that I'm not using red light in the background behind me here, which I'd normally have on during an imaging session, but when I'm doing a live stream it doesn't. It just kind of glares out at people from behind my head. So I put in all these little tiny LEDs, which seem to work really well, but they, for some reason or other, I guess for battery saving purposes, they time out after a while. Although they do come with a remote control, so you can just turn them back on again. Lighting is absolutely key, whether you're have an observatory or not. You want to keep basically your dark oriented eyesight, so you can actually see, especially if you're doing visual observatory or visual observing, I should say. So let's see what we got here for M13. That's just a quick distant shot. You can see so many stars in there. And what's amazing is light pollution kills all of this. Obviously, if you look up in your sky, unless you're in a very dark area, low border area, you will never see this many stars in the sky. It's really very tragic. Okay, so to change the histogram for this guy. So there it is in the center of the screen. Let's do just 60 seconds. This is actually a very bright object as well. Zoom in a little bit. This is the Hercules cluster, one of the more famous globular clusters. And also a fantastic target to image and for visual astronomy as well. You can actually see it with a small pair of binoculars or a smaller telescope and take a picture of it with even a DSLR or your iPhone camera, which allows you to do timed photography. You can see basically it's a group of maybe 100,000 stars, all kind of together. If you were to live inside this cluster, it would not be a good day for you. The radiation, because of so many stars close together, would not be good for you unless you were immune to radiation, and who knows, maybe there are folks out there that are. But living in a globular cluster, you would probably not be able to see much of anything else in the night sky because it would be so bright all the time. So this is 60 seconds of exposure. Yeah, so that made a pretty big difference. You can see there's a lot of noise in the image because of the seeing conditions, but you can see this is kind of what you would see through binoculars or a telescope. It's about just under the size or at the size of a full moon in the sky, and it's pretty easy to find. Again, if you have planetary software, it'll point it out to you where it is, either Stellarium or Starry Night Pro or one of those packages you can get for your iPhone as well. And you type in M13, it will basically tell you where to look in the sky. And if we zoom in on it, you can see that big cluster of stars and the bright core in the center. As I say, if you were to live in this cluster, you would probably never know anything else if you could survive there. So I'll leave that up for a moment or two for people to look at. And do I see a galaxy in here? I do. So sort of one of those aha moments when you're doing astronomy. Sometimes you get more than you bargained for in the image. We not only have M13 in the image, but we have, though it may be hard to see on the screen, this is actually a galaxy, distant galaxy in the background. You can sort of see the central core. It's an edge-on galaxy, so you can kind of see the gases that form the arms of the galaxy, the spiral arms. It's likely a spiral galaxy. So that's kind of one of the benefits. I enjoy going through images, especially when they're large formats sometimes, and just having a look to see what else is in the background. Not quite like the James Webb Space Telescope, the JWST, where they're finding amazing things in the background that we've never seen before. So yeah, there you can see a little tiny galaxy. Well, probably not so tiny, but very far off in the distance. And let's see, let's annotate and see if we can find out exactly. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to annotate. See if it tells us. Yes, so that is NGC 6207 from the New Galactic Catalog. And of course here we have M13, the Hercules cluster. So that's one great thing about this software as well. You can hit annotate and it will find anything of note in the background. So we're coming up on an hour and a half here, or well, an hour, should say. Oops, didn't want to do that. Well, let's have a look and see if there's anything else that we can do quickly. I do have to wrap this up shortly. See if there's anything high up here to have a peek at. Well, we have a galaxy out here, M102, a spiral galaxy. So let's see if we can have a look at that for a change. And we'll go here, search M102. So you can see this is another edge-on galaxy. Not sure how much this is going to show up in the image, but we'll give it a whirl here and see what we can see. This one will definitely do a 3-minute exposure on, because it likely is distant. M33 is another great galaxy to image, not in my view yet, still a little low on the horizon. Later on in the late fall and early winter it should be more visible to me, so I'll likely get back and do some imaging on that and show you that galaxy as well. It's a very nice looking galaxy, as I said earlier. Andromeda as well, which will be in a better position in the next couple of months. So we do have a centered target, and let's see, it should be able to find it with annotation on. I'm just going to leave the annotation on so you can actually see the names and descriptors. Boom. Okay, well, yeah, it's, I believe here, but let's 60 seconds, or well, 10 seconds is definitely not enough. So let's do 180. So that's 3 minutes that it's going to take us to go through that. And let's turn the annotation on again. Oh. Well, we've actually picked up a few different galaxies. So this is the galaxy, it's going by its New Galactic Catalog name, which is 5866. But we have a galaxy here as well, and these actually 3 galaxies in this particular image, which is kind of exciting. So we'll see after a 3-minute exposure how much of it we can really see. That's kind of cool. Again, that's why I like this software. Not every software will annotate like this and tell you exactly what you've got in your frame. So that if you're not sure, you can take a look and look it up on the internet. What is NGC 5866? What other name is it known as? Because typically a lot of these have multiple name designations or number designations. And you can learn more about the object as well. I do recommend everybody get out and really get to know the night sky visually, so that you can, especially if you're doing visual astronomy and not using something like an ASI Air or Sequence Generator Pro, something that does plate solving. Get out and learn the constellations, learn the positions in the sky of everything from different times of year. You're going to enjoy it a lot more. Try to get out to a dark sky site, not so much in the winter, but certainly in the summer months. This past weekend, a major event here in Ontario was Starfest. I unfortunately did not get to go this year. I really wanted to, but some other things came up and wasn't able to go. But apparently they had a massive turnout, and it was a great weekend for everybody. The weather looked a little iffy for a while, but apparently turned out pretty good. And I know there's some YouTube videos coming up about Starfest. Happens every year. There's a lot of good dark sky sites you can go to, even if you don't want to go to something like Starfest, which is a big star party. And you can actually go to some of the national parks. There's a list of sanctioned dark sky sites. Just look that up in Ontario or whatever province you happen to be on, or in, I should say. Usually there are quite a few of them that are specifically dark sky, designed to preserve dark skies. And these are Bortle 2, 3, 4s, which are amazing. You can also, in some of them, probably see aurora in some nights, which is a fantastic thing to see. Meteor showers. We really don't see much in the urban areas. In meteor showers, occasionally you might see one or two. Not a lot of them. Okay, so we're almost done here. Let's see what we get. Okay, well, of course we got a satellite. That's irritating. I'm going to shoot that again, hopefully get it without a satellite. But, in the meantime, let's annotate. So, yeah, so we can see an edge-on galaxy here that's oriented up and down to us. Another distant galaxy way up here. We'll zoom into this one a bit. See what we can see. Oops. Let's do it this way. We'll start with this guy. Again, edge-on galaxy. Again, this is just one image. It is very noisy, but you can see where the spiral arms would be, the central core of the galaxy here, and stretching out. If I were to do some multiple images of this and stack them together, we'd get a lot more detail. Let's have a look at the other guy here, the bigger guy. And we'll bring this histogram over here a little bit, darken it up a bit. That's better. Again, sort of almost a vertical galaxy and oriented to us. You can see the central core here, the spiral arms on the outside. And that's NGC 5866. And there's this little guy way up here. very difficult to see. Can't really see a lot of detail with one 3-minute image. If we were to do again a bunch of stacks of images and process it, we'd get a little more detail. But this is probably a very distant object. Let's see how distant. 5905. Oops. Let's do NGC 5905. So it's a constellation, galaxy in the constellation of Draco, recorded as NGC 5905. Some other information. Does it give us any kind of distance? Da, 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 da. So, yeah, it's a little bit far away. So it is a distance of between 71 million and 168 million light years from Earth. So they're saying the mean average distance is 122,400 and 81 point whatever light years. Wow, that's pretty incredible. 71 million light years is the light from that galaxy started traveling towards us 71 million light years ago, or it could be up to 168 million light years. Obviously, the universe is expanding. Galaxies, for the most part, are moving away from each other. Yeah, so 5905, they're saying is about 140 million light years. So, again, some of the distances vary a little bit on how far people believe it is away. Yeah, 148 million in this one. So, somewhere in there, we'll say we looked at a galaxy 148 million light years away. So, we're definitely back into the time of dinosaurs, when the light of that galaxy started traveling towards us. Pretty cool. And of course, yet another we have X marks the spot here. 2 satellites moving through. Anyway, folks, I do have to call it a bit of a night. It's 10:41, and unfortunately, I have to work tomorrow. I'd love to stay up all night and do this with you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do that. I'm not sure what the weekend is looking like. I know tomorrow night and Friday are supposed to be a little better, and I might jump on and let you watch me do an imaging session. These sessions, some people are interested in, some people not so much. Just they can be, obviously we're focused on one target, so it can be a little less interesting than jumping around and talking about multiple targets. So yeah, tonight we saw some galaxies. Let's just, before I sign off, out of curiosity, annotate NGC 5907. 5907. That's that pinwheel. Yeah, see, so you can see the picture of it here, and you can see a little more detail, obviously. This one's a little bit closer, about 50 million, approximately 50 million light years away. So, yeah, that's what it would look like up here. This is likely a Hubble image of it. You can see the gas lanes, so we could start to see that. And we get a picture. You can also see some other gas. This has been kind of fancied up a little bit. Some other gas layers in here, and bit of nebulosity as well, I can see. So pretty cool that we had a look at that. And let's look at the last galaxy in that image. Oops. Which is NGC 5866. NGC 5866. So yeah, that one is a little bit different. It says it has numerous dust lanes appearing. Distance-wise, let's see if it gives us a distance. So we can see it looks kind of like that. 44 million light years. So not bad. Definitely way out there. That comes from NASA science. So yeah, pretty cool. We've seen some galaxies tonight, globular clusters, a bunch of different objects, the North American Nebula, and so this one again is kind of a vertical image of the galaxy, or oriented vertically to us. So I want to thank everybody who actually tunes into this later on and watches the video. Again, I ask you, please, please, please subscribe and hit notifications and a like. Notifications will let you know when I am on live. It gets lonely here talking to myself sometimes, so I'd like to see some people join me. And hope you have a great night and get out there and do some visual astronomy or imaging astronomy, or just look up in the night sky. Hopefully you're in a darker spot than I am. But even if you're in the city, there's some pretty amazing things you can see. The planets, which we'll try to do some a little later on in the next month or two. And even just, you know, some binoculars on the moon is an amazing thing to look at. So give it a try, and you can always send me an email or a message on our Facebook page, Brampton Observatory Facebook page. And if you have any questions or would like to see something in particular, if I can get to it from my particular position and time of year, I definitely will. Look at all those crisscross satellites. Anyway, everyone, have a great night, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care.